And hello everybody, welcome back to British Stand. It's been a while since I've been live on this channel, but I am back, and maybe I could explain to you a little bit later on in the stream as to where I've been. But guys, what a way to start. We've got a bit of breaking news for you this afternoon. As you can read there in the title, a BBC building has gone into lockdown after protesters posing as tourists broke in. And actually, I find this story very ironic, really, because you're going to see who those perpetrators were that stormed into the building. I thought they were on the same side, and actually both of these groups we detest here on British Stand. We hate the BBC and we hate the certain protesters that stormed the building. As always, guys, we are going to break down the story, get your reaction and all that good stuff. So do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll be taking your reaction a little bit later on. But yeah, let's go through and break down this story. So a BBC building has been forced into lockdown after dozens of pro-Palestine protesters stormed into the premises. Some 20 activists brandishing Palestinian flags and chanting Free Palestine gained access to one of the broadcaster buildings in Belfast, Studio A at Black House on Great Victoria Street. The police service of Northern Ireland were called and later removed the protesters, and one BBC staff member who witnessed the incident said the protesters had initially approached security staff posing as tourists. They asked to visit the building and were refused entry, but then as a staff member was leaving, they rushed through a pedestrian gate. BBC News also reported that the crowd gained entry to a studio through a fire door. It comes just a few weeks after a similar protest erupted outside Broadcasting House, the BBC London headquarters. Back then, pro-Palestine vandals smashed office windows in a demonstration against the broadcaster's complicity in the quote-unquote genocide of Palestinians through its alleged quote-unquote entrenched pro-Israel bias. Organisers, Palestine Action, claim that for years the BBC has consistently minimised Israel's violence against Palestinians while amplifying the narratives of the oppressors, perpetrating a deadly cycle of misinformation and false inequality. This is itself is a blood-red paint demonstration at Broadcasting House just 1 week after Hamas October 7th attacks on Israel. Again, the group sprayed the building with blood red paint and claimed its coverage of Israel had been complicit in manufacturing consent for the occupations of genocide to Palestinians. So that's kind of what we know so far. As you can see, these guys, activists, pro-Palestine protesters storming the building, or the BBC building in Northern Ireland. And I did think that it seemed a little bit ironic. Now, I would say that, I don't like the BBC. I don't encourage anyone to go and protest and storm their buildings by that fact, by the way. But I also dislike the pro-Palestine mob. I really do. And actually, I do feel that the BBC, weren't they releasing a documentary that was like anti-Israel? I'm sure they were more on the side of Palestine. And to be fair, they're reporting on the conflict out in Israel and between Israel and Palestine has been more biased towards the Palestinians rather than the Israelis. So I do find it very, very ironic that this is happening in terms of the pro-Palestine protesters protesting and storming the building there of the BBC. However, it does seem as though that they did get into a studio and did go through a fire exit in Northern Ireland. So yeah, that's the update for you guys. But as stated, I do feel it's a little bit ironic, but I would like to know what you guys think down there in the live chat. If you're watching on a replay, down there in the comment section, I'm going to get some reaction up from the live chat troops, and maybe a little bit later on I'll get to where I've been in terms of my absence from live streams. It's been for very good reason, and maybe I could shine a light on something for any of you guys that are going through something similar. Let's have a little look. Roby says earlier Roby Early says it would be awful if they all did each other in. Just awful. No, it would be. Certainly very much awful. I missed so much, to be fair, over the week in terms of the protests that erupted. Of course, we've seen this stuff with the trans activists as well. Some violent protests over the weekend, which was some shocking scenes, but again, doesn't really get condemned. In fact, actually, it did get condemned a little bit earlier on from Keir Starmer. In fact, he came out and spoke about the Supreme Court ruling, despite his Labour MPs or not taking action on the Labour MPs that were plotting to defy it. They also didn't really come out and go against the vandals. The vandals, of course, spraying on statues and all of the kind of things. You know, if it was a Tommy Robinson protest or if it was a St. George's parade or something like that, and something had happened, which it wouldn't, then it would have been front page news. But these trans activists defacing statues, public monuments within the United Kingdom didn't really get much thrown at them. And to be fair, I've seen a lot of horrible things placed on cards that they were holding up, that it happened on the other side, whether that been a Tommy Robinson protest, whether that just been a United Kingdom protest, or any of these kind of things, they would have been front page news, and again, they would have been scapegoated for a very long time. Let's have a little look at some more chats, guys. Good to see everyone. I love this live format. I love coming on live, and I love talking to you guys and breaking the news to you. So we'll be back with more. If you do rely on this channel sometimes for a bit of breaking news, then as I stated, I'll be back in my game as of today. So yeah, great place to start going forwards. Who Opened the Gates says, this is like what happened in Iran when the commies and the monos worked together. Jojo UK says, did anyone get arrested? And unfortunately, because it's a breaking news story, I think all we know in terms of the Northern Irish police is that they have, of course, removed the protesters, but we haven't got yet a police statement. Of course, the mainstream media have reported on it. There has been the sort of, BBC actually did a piece on it as well. And again, there's no police statements as of yet with regard to if any of these individuals were arrested or what actually went on inside. But what looks as though has happened is that the police have removed them. They went up through a fire exit, got into one of the studios, and that was it, and was just chanting their sort of propaganda around the site. But as stated, I do believe it is fairly ironic. Fat Belly says it's Sinn Féin, IRA supporters who do all the Gaza protests. Again, I'm not too clued up on that. I know about Celtic Football Club just because of my affiliation with Rangers, and I know that they sort of have that weird affiliation with sort of Palestine and all these other sort of far left woke groups. But I presume Celtic Link, Ireland, maybe that could be the case as well. But it didn't really look like people from Sinn Féin. Let me get the picture up for you in terms of it. I mean, it looked like an older crowd, older ladies that were doing the protests. As you can see, there were the flags. I mean, there were some guys in the background, as you can see, with the flags, but there's a couple of ladies here at the front. So they don't necessarily look like Sinn Féin or IRA supporters, possibly just far left wokies that love talking about Palestine and free Palestine and all that sort of stuff, just storming a building to try and make their mark. I mean, it's Tuesday. Why are these guys always unemployed? That's what I struggle to think of. Why are they never in work? These pro-Palestine protests and all these other protests, they're always at them, regardless of what day of the week it is, and staging a protest here again on a Tuesday morning. Gary says, sorry, my chat didn't come up there for a moment. Gary says, a lot of the Irish think Palestine is on the side because they have been through the same. It's delusional. I mean, it's completely different, really. And actually, to be fair, I'm starting to look into what's going on with Conor McGregor and the sort of Irish people. And I don't think actually some of the Irish patriots and people that, you know, from Ireland necessarily support this BS. And I mean, I can't speak for the people of Ireland, but I always supposedly thought that Irish people as a majority kind of reflected Glasgow Celtic and their sort of views, but then I've actually started to look at it and look at it a little bit more, and I've got messages from Celtic fans quite a lot saying, I love what you do and I really hate what our football club does. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that live in Ireland that hate seeing the tricolour and the Palestine flag together and actually don't want anything to do with it. You'd be surprised, there'd probably be a large majority of people that don't want to see that and don't have it in the same sort of vicinity. So I wouldn't necessarily blame Irish people and that sort of stuff. But yeah. But guys, yeah, let me explain. That's all I've got with regard to this. So yeah, so let me explain where I've been in terms of live streams and stuff like that. A bit inconsistent on the channel as well. I did go through a bit of a hard time. So for those of you going through a breakup with a partner, all of these kind of things, I feel for you. Mine was very, very bad ending. I found out a lot was bad and was emotionally manipulated and all of these kind of things. But I'm not going to pull my story out here. But it's just been a really, really hard time. So I just wanted to give you guys the truth and come out and say as to why I've not been around. But as stated, I'm feeling better, feeling really recovered and all of these kind of things. And I'm ready to deliver the news on a day-to-day basis. So make sure if you are new around here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button and all that good stuff. Whatever pain you're going through, guys, there's always an ending to it. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. So keep on going, keep on pushing, and you'll get there in the end. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I am Dan. This has been